Larson.
A Local News 8 investigation continues tonight. We are getting answers for some local customers and a nonprofit who paid a contractor for work that was left unfinished.
Seth Ratliff is back tonight, digging deeper into what you need to know to keep it from happening to you. Seth.
Linda, Todd, let me take a moment to look back at where this investigation started. 10 people, each claiming they were owed money for construction work that was left unfinished by Relived Construction and its owner, Brandon Cook. Within my investigation, I also talked to a nonprofit, Life, a Center for Independent Living. They sent me bank transactions showing $200,000 paid to Cook for construction, but they say he never showed up. I also discovered that Relived Construction, which has since shut down, was never properly licensed by the state. I took these complaints directly to Brandon Cook, who claims he never received money from the nonprofit, and he did apologize to the homeowners and says he wants to pay them back. Local News 8 wants to use this situation to help make you a more savvy consumer. Questions continue around why these complaints did not go through with legal action. Here's your answer. The story starts with my conversation with Jennifer Bennett. After talking with the Idaho Falls police, she says there was little she could do to get her money back.
Even if you get a favorable judgment, going down that path is very complicated and not straightforward and not very likely to produce anything.
I started digging into why that was and reached out to the Bonneville County prosecutor, Randy Neal. He says it comes down to determining if the contractor fell into bad business practices or had the initial intent to deprive the customer of what they paid for. One is criminal activity, the other is not.
And a lot of these contractors will start a project with somebody's money, but then use other parts of that money to go pay for somebody else's project. And then it's almost like a Ponzi scheme. They're just constantly trying to take money from Peter to pay for Paul's project. Those are bad business practices.
The business practices he describes match nearly word for word what Brandon Cook told us he did in our last interview.
My biggest thing was we were trying to bid jobs to be competitive, and a lot of them, as I know, is where we got behind on. It was costing us more on jobs than what we originally estimated, and trying to cover those was basically using a deposit from our next customer.
However, when a company shuts down, you're likely out of options.
There can be civil remedies there. You can sue. But of course, what we're seeing is some folks then will use ways of avoiding civil liability so that the remedies under a lawsuit they can't collect on because they changed the name of their companies, they bankrupt, whatever it might be.
So how can you be more proactive before hiring a contractor? The answer only creates more questions. Neal says smaller jurisdictions often lack the law enforcement resources to conduct a forensic investigation into a contractor's accounting records, which, according to Prosecutor Neal, leaves smaller cities like Idaho Falls and Pocatello vulnerable.
As long as they stay away from a jurisdiction where they have that capability of really following the money and getting all of the accounting and the funds and the different accounts, that they can continue to take advantage of people.
Okay, he even says right there, and you stated it, Pocatello, Idaho Falls, small communities vulnerable. It's hard to imagine that. But these people, these 10 that you talked to, what are they supposed to do? They're owed money.
All right. Well, that's the unfortunate part, Todd. There's not much that can be done. As Prosecutor Neal said, many of the problems can be solved civilly, but unless you're the first in line, it's very unlikely that you'll get your money back. In a situation where someone took money from Peter to pay Paul, for example, there would be no money left to give back to Peter. You also have the option to pursue criminal charges, and we have that information on how to do that in an extended series of this special investigation, which is on the homepage right now of localnews8.com. But once again, proving that case in a small jurisdiction can be next to impossible.
So there is no recourse for this group?
Well, from what I found, It's unlikely that they'll get their money back, but their story can become a warning for the rest of Idaho. I found 7 steps that everyone needs to take when vetting a contractor to avoid situations like this. That's the focus of my next special report, which will air Sunday on Local News 8 at 5.